this 8-game MLB slate. I found a few things that I really like, basically that we talked about earlier today, and I'm sort of sticking with what we talked about, playing a lot of Philly, playing a lot of Waldron. I know you didn't want to do that as much, but I've settled in sort of on Waldron and Philly as my main exposures tonight. What are you looking at? What are you doing? What kind of builds are you getting in your
So FanDuel, I'm going to start with FanDuel. Then we come back to DraftKings because FanDuel, okay. I'm just building 3. I'm playing like 3 in the Grand Slam, pretty much 55 each, and then 1 in the big one. Mm-hmm. And I'm actually pretty chalky over there. Like I'm playing one of them Gaussman, and the other one Wheeler, and then I basically spread out like two different sets of builds using 4 teams. And neither of them are particularly off the board. That's what DraftKings. I'm going to be getting I think I'm going to get a little kooky. So on FanDuel, I'm pretty chalky. I have like Reds and like Zona, and then like Colorado and San Francisco or something like that. Mm-hmm. So that's just kind of where I'm at over there. I'm not playing like the lottery, so I'm not getting nuts. DraftKings, on the other hand, I'm going for the leverage here, and that means either the idea of playing St. Louis against Houston, or where I am ending up in my lottery is my highest exposed team, and now it's going to be Baltimore. Taking a shot against Gaussman. Gaussman's obviously a great play. He's 8K, but we've certainly seen Gaussman not be great, and we've certainly seen Baltimore, crack. So I'm taking some shots there with some St. Louis and some Baltimore, and again, not because they're the best plays, but because you're getting some ownership breaks and some leverage. And the other team I'm getting to again is Houston, which I like quite a bit. So I'm really taking sort of a cross-site portfolio approach here. Mm-hmm. That on FanDuel, I'm going with the good plays, and on DraftKings, I'm going for the leverage and seeing just kind of where it works out. Let me just make sure. So Baltimore, St. Louis, Houston are my top 3 stacks on DraftKings, and as far as my pitchers, as you might imagine, not particularly off the board. They would be Wheeler. Wheeler. I am using Gaussman. I'm using Waldron. I'm using Gore. And you ready for this, Mr. Bobby?
What's up?
I currently have 36% of the aforementioned leader of the free world, Andrew Abbott. So let's go.
So I actually have a good amount of Abbott as well, but what I'm doing is I actually will stack the Reds if I'm going to play Abbott. I'm okay with it. And also the Reds are getting less ownership because they're so much more expensive than Colorado.
Okay.
So they're going to have less ownership than I think people think. So that's my way of playing Abbott is my way to get to the Reds, or my way of playing the Reds is using Abbott. Yeah. Not because I need the money, but because it's a very contrarian play with, probably as much upside as any of these other pitchers.
Yeah.
So I like that. I really like your Baltimore idea. And it's funny because you'd think that naturally just, okay, Gaussman, where did he play? Where did he come? Where did he pitch before for 5 years? I would want to stack against him. And I just like the other things too much.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I can't believe the ownership is as much as, it's so high in Colorado, which is fine. But Colorado against Abbott, I just think that's a little crazy. I also think the Giants, the other pitcher that I was considering that I just didn't end up clicking the button because I just don't think he's a good pitcher. But against the Giants, Reed Nelson.
I'm down with that. I've heard a couple of people with that take. I like it a lot, actually.
Yeah, I think it makes some sense. And so that's the other get weird play, I guess. I guess it's not even that weird. Looking at it now, where is he?
San Francisco is going to be highly owned, so it's a good, So it's leverage. That's nice and easy.
Absolutely. And I think that on these slates, the 8 gamers and less, it's a better time to get the leverage. We could talk about that sometime because the big slates where people are trying to do it on 12, 13, 14 game slates, I just don't think it matters that much. But I do think it matters a lot when you get in these 8 or less situations, maybe even 9 or less. I also think that it's crazy because I love Scooble. I just can't do it against Texas. I have him like in a couple lineups and only with Wheeler. Um, I also have I have Verlander like with the field, which I just feel like meh about, and I have Gausman with the field, which I feel meh about. So I'm the most over on Wheeler and Waldron. Waldron is the one I'm not most over the projection, but I have some McGill, I have some Grayson Rodriguez, I have some Mackenzie Gore. I'm a little spread out outside of being very high on Waldron. I guess he's the one who's 4 times the ownership I've got on him than projected.
Well, what we'll do again, just to continue to pound process here, is I'll do a different SaberSim build with like different I'm going to use like kind of like the SaberSim projection sort of, just to get us to see, for those of you that are watching this for the first time, So step one is to build your total field of lineups. So SaberSim, if you're, get the premium package or whatever, you can build 5,000 lineups, and it happens like very quickly. And the first question you ask is what the default settings you use. And you would think that if you're going to play the lottery, whatever, that you would do the 150 max, but people don't play as aggressively as maybe they should. So I think that for purposes of creating a contest field, I think 20 max is better. But remember, you're picking the lineups that you're choosing from. So let's, for this purposes of this, well, considering we're also going to be picking for different contests. So you're going to play the lottery. You might also play the 20 max. You might also play the single max. So I think 20 max is a good place to kind of start. Everything else will kind of keep the same. And then what I'd like to do again is I'll show you guys what we would get just kind of normally, and then what we would get once we start making sort of, adjustments. So it's going a little bit slower than normal, but here it goes. And so if I always think about this with computers, like just because it says 1,323 is completed, does that actually mean that? I mean, it's like a GIF, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's saying what you're programming it to say. It could be done already. You know what I mean? It could be not even whatever. This is just like computer stuff I kind of think about. All right. So anyway, okay. So 5,000 of the 5,000 were built. So I imagine when I first look at this, it's probably going to get me, I would say, almost all the Cincinnati. That's going to be my prediction.
You think that's what it's going to get you to?
Yep. Well, you think who do you think is going to be the top owned?
For I'm sorry. So you picked it for that field?
Didn't do anything yet. Okay, so
probably they'll probably go max everything opposite. So it'll be like St. Louis and what's it called? It'll be what's the other one? I can't think of the team. They probably wouldn't go Milwaukee, but maybe. I don't know. Maybe Texas is probably too expensive. So Baltimore, maybe Baltimore, St. Louis.
So you're on the right track, but you're a step late. So what I'm looking at first is not even applying the contest sims. I'm just looking for the straight SaberSim builds, right, without doing anything else. And even so, St. Louis is the top owned. I guess. And then San Francisco, Arizona, Houston. Really, not that much Cincinnati actually, which is sort of interesting.
It's the pricing, because you can very comfortably, I bet you, if you look at your pictures they gave you, I'm going to bet you got a lot of Wheeler.
Well, here's the other thing is that I'm ranking it by the top 50. So if I do the whole pool, like all 5,000, then I'd be getting San Francisco, San Diego, Cincinnati, and Colorado. So those are the top 4 over 5,000 lineups. But over 50, I mean, it's mostly St. Louis for some reason, which is kind of interesting. Now, as far as pitching, like you said, I would be getting, again, like just
Wheeler 70. Is that right?
Let me see. Exposure. 80% Wheeler.
Yeah.
And then Scooble and then Gausman. All right. That's for, again, just over 50 lineups though. For the whole pool, it would be 27% Verlander, and 27%. Yeah. So I'm only getting 6% of the top 50, but the more lineups you get, the more this kind of smooths out. The other thing I would say is stack exposure, mostly 5.2s and 5.3s with some kind of whatever. So now what we want to do is kind of run contest sims and kind of tighten it up a little bit and apply this group of 5,000 lineups to what could be actual contest fields. So these are the 4 contests I'm playing here, and I'm going to use SaberSim's defaults. So it's when it says high stakes 20 max, that's the type of lineups that they think are more likely to play in the Mega Eights. And ball four, same type of thing. Single entry saves single entry, relay throw save. Actually, flagship MME. So we'll run the contest sims, and what it's doing now for those again watching this first time, it's comparing that whole 5,000 lineup set that I created to what SaberSim algorithm feels the field is going to play. And then and then do like an ROI calculation. Like if you're try to see what lineups are most unique, see which ones have the most leverage. And then when we look at that, let's get back. Well, that's the Mega Eights, but forget the Mega Eights. I think what's more important is the lottery. It's almost done. Let's just try to force it. Not quite done yet. Oh, there it is. So relay throw, we sort here by risk adjusted ROI. And when we sort by risk adjusted ROI, let's see. Now, let's see, as far as exposure goes, now you're actually getting 92% St. Louis. Because, like you said, Verlander is going to be really popular, and they think that St. Louis's upside, when they do well, is going to get you a lot of leverage. So that's what you'd be getting. Now, do you have to play that? No, but this is kind of like your post-build decisions. You could either say, what, SaberSim knows what they're doing. I don't want to put in any of my takes, whatever. Boom, 92% St. Louis and LFG, right? The other thing you could do is change this min uniques thing from, instead of min uniques 1, you go to say min uniques 2, and it smooths things out a little bit, but not as much as you think. So it's still like all the St. Louis. So now you're at a point where if you don't want, St. Louis, you've done everything you can kind of organically. Now it's just a question of whether you have it in you or whether you feel like just literally just reducing the amount of St. Louis ownership to, let's say, 50%. And what's cool is when you do that, you can just do it right here, like max 50, hit apply, and it automatically will drag from that 5,000 lineup pool, the right lineups to give yourself 50% St. Louis. And then 26% Mets you'd be getting, 20% Houston. So again, I'd rather everybody not focus on who I'm actually getting, but just kind of like what it would look like. So if you were getting 92% of pretty much anybody playing 50 lineups, I'm not telling you what to do, but I probably would do something.
So one other thing you could do, if you didn't love Zach Wheeler tonight, you could make him 50%, and then I promise you won't be getting these stacks because these are all the cheapest stacks, including, say, even Houston is a cheap point.
Well, let's test that for a second. So let's instead of let's reduce our let's eliminate the max 50% of St. Louis, and let's then just for fun. Let's go into players and go for Zach Wheeler. Let's go maximum of, say, 10%. Just for the to test this. So if we went 10% of Wheeler, and let's just make sure that it actually applied it. Exposure 10%. Then the team stacks we would be getting. Let's see. Okay, so you'd be getting less St. Louis, but you'd still be getting 60% St. Louis. And so at this point, I mean, you'd want to think about maybe, I mean, if you have, you like no ball, if you like do a little research, you might actually want to see if maybe you think St. Louis might be a little over projected by SaberSim, if you're getting that much. And then this is if you want to impose your own takes and your own analysis. That's why I like to use the my own projections and the TrueDFS projections, or in combination with Goldie's, is you're not completely reliant on one take. Like you do some sort of combination of different sources, whether it be mine or Goldie's, for example. Like if you combine, like do an average of SaberSim, Goldie's, and mine, that's going to probably be a better thing to do than just rely on any of them, and that's actually an interesting point. I'll talk about this maybe some other time, but one thing that people may know is that I did a lot of work on analyzing ownerships and ownership projections of pretty much all of the sites, not all of them, but most of them, and kind of tracking like who is the best. And I didn't do it so much for baseball, but I did it for golf. I mean, extensively for golf, for MMA, etc., and those types of sports. And one thing that's always for sure, okay, is that if you have enough samples, like if I'm tracking, say, like 8 sites, the one result that's almost always correct is the projection, the ownership projection that is closest to accurate is always the average of them all. Okay. And that's just the way math works. The law of large numbers, that's the way it works. So one could always be better, one site could always be better than the other, or one site was better than something else. But overall, like the law of large numbers dictates that the more samples you have, the more likely that sum is going to be closer to accurate. So the point is that right now we're just running with just SaberSim builds, and if you're getting like 94 million% St. Louis, maybe you should tweak something. I mean, I don't know. These are just ideas. I wouldn't play 92% St. Louis. Right, a million.
Yeah.
And I don't have any mathematical reason for that. It just just doesn't make any doesn't make any sense to me. So I wouldn't do it. And then as far as stack exposures go, I would probably on a slate like this, like X out all this nonsense. Now, what my nonsense is, Bob, is like, this is the stuff that always make me a lot of money. So don't hold me to this. But to knock out the 4 3s, 3 3s, 3 3 2, 4 2s, I'll keep the 4 4s, and that's really just my own bias because I once hit something with 4 4, so I'm always the 4 4s in. It's worth seeing if that changes anything. Still St. Louis 66%, and it's still with a 10% Wheeler. So this is you play with this enough, you could do yourself a lot of damage. So one other thing to note for the slate is that San Francisco's lineup still not out, San Diego's lineup still not out, the Angels are still not out.
Yeah. San Francisco's a big one too because there's a lot of questionable who might play things for them. Like they could end up with down a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a big one. But yeah, I'm curious to see the how things come out. I liked your Houston idea a lot. For what it's worth, Houston in the last month is just barely behind the Yankees in all power numbers. Like they're right there for being the best, like right with the best in baseball. They've sort of bounced back, and I like that idea. So I did build some Houston stacks while you were going through some stuff, and I think it makes certainly makes some sense, especially at these ownerships. But I really like the Philly and the Houston idea, and I feel like Phillies had really bad. They always start off slow home run wise, usually because the weather has something to do with it. Now it starts getting warm, and love. I'm going to be playing the Phillies a lot. Whenever they're low owned, I'm always going to be in on teams like Philly. Baltimore is a little harder for me today because I'm playing. I think Gaussman at his price is very reasonable, so it's kind of a weird, both prong thing. But anyway. And you look at the value out there, by the way, this kid, like I have like some one-offs and I have like some mini Detroit stuff just because they cost like $2, but they have this rookie, Justin Henry Malloy. He's 2K, he's batting 6th. They've got Colt Keith at 2,800 batting 5th. So I was originally playing a bunch of Solano because he was the cheap spot I could use to sort of make things work. And I have a ton of David Dahl, but he's part of my Philly stacks. But these just David Dahl, John Henry Malloy, what's his name? Just for people who are building by hand, and Solano are some of the cheap ones that stand out. Trenton Brooks is projected to hit 9th for San Francisco. There's a chance he hits somewhere totally different. So I would speculate on San Francisco without knowing. And the truth is, if you're not playing Philadelphia, which I am, you're not missing any other major stuff until the lineups probably come out. I guess unless you're playing Baltimore or the Mets or something.
Well, what else? We have no NBA.
No NBA. I'm still working out what I'm going to do about the finals.
What? Oh, what do you mean?
I just don't know what I'm thinking. I have like my strong takes of players that I think are going to thrive in the series.
Oh, like who you like? I thought you were like going to go.
We got that $1 million first place tournament coming up for the thing.
Okay.
It's a showdown, but I mean, look, it's hard. But the thing is, with Kristaps just coming back, probably most likely we don't even know yet.
Wait, what's the $1 million first one? Like a showdown, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, I promise you, it's not paying more than $30,000.
Why not more than 30? The last one paid like 40 something, and that was 100,000. You can win it.
Yeah,
it's doable.
A billion people,
especially for game ones though, because there's it's really like you're open to variance. It's not as much like in a game 1 of the finals as much as it would be earlier in the playoffs because you're just playing back to back to back. Yeah. But there's speculative plays that you can certainly run out there with the way these teams play. I mean, like, is Jaden Hardy going to get his role? Is there somehow is Dante Exum going to be the guy they end up relying on at 2K? You know what I mean? Who gets there? Like something like that could happen. Could you leave 5K on the table and win? Yeah.
Even following any of the Caitlin Clark stuff?
I think I think that what's been happening is pretty insane, to be honest.
Did you see the some of the counter videos though?
Yeah, and I get it. What do you think?
It's interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, it's interesting. Everybody has their own feed. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
If you look at my feed, you're getting like 99%. Like, oh my God, these freaking thugs. These people are like going after her. What are they doing? You know, whatever it is. But then again, I mean, I look at a couple of other accounts, and then I'm sure what their feed looks like is different than mine. We're basically tracking Caitlin Clark, like, you know, like starting it, and, you know, and being aggressive on herself and talking a little shit herself, and that you know, if that put the race thing in or whatever. So, and again, the way social media works is really interesting. I mean, I'm telling you, go into those people's timelines, and they're 100% sure that we're all morons. You know, so it's, I'm very open, you know, to different takes on things. Certainly feels little, and then to see that, I don't want to be a pain in the ass, but hearing stories that like ESPN like literally like cuts out like any coverage of any angles, any whatever that has Caitlin Clark being anything but the victim of this. That's not great. But in general, I mean, I don't know. I have no take except to say that that I don't know. They finally have a little bit of momentum in the WNBA.
Yeah.
I would try to keep that going if that means anything.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why I'm saying it's ridiculous. Like, it is interesting. There are people I know who are on both sides of it. Like some people I know who literally love basketball and actually have watched women's basketball, men, women. They despise Caitlin Clark. They absolutely despise her. And my other friends, most of them, everybody loves her and is like excited about women's basketball. Like so, but like the people who despise her, like they don't. I do think you can't act like, well, this person is what's making you popular. It's like when people used to get angry at Magic being too flashy. I'm like, look where the league is. The league was on tape delay the year before he came in. The finals were on tape delay. You know, you need that. You don't bite the hand that feeds you. You know,
it was worse because when I was growing up, they would show the game would be at 11:30 p.m. Eastern time. That's when it would start. Okay, jeez. Like and the news would the local news is 11 o'clock. And then at 11:15, like 11:20, there would be the sports report. Like, for those of you that don't want to see the score of the game, turn away now. It's like, and that's what they would do. They would flash the score of the game, and they say, "Okay, you can come back." And if you wanted to, you know, you would stop. Whatever. Are you watching any of these AI generated clips of the press conferences though?
Yeah, I just saw like a little thing.
It's pretty brutal.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
It's pretty brutal. I don't know if you saw any of them, but like the ones the ones I'm referring to are pretty bad.
Yeah.
Oh
man.
The other thing I do like, by the way, this is actually kind of for those of you who don't follow him, like DFS PhD, PhD DVS, whatever. I've had him on on here before. He's a pretty sharp dude, and he's been tweeting some like very pro, not that they shouldn't be, but very aggressively pro female like tweets and pro WNBA, like very interesting takes. And one of them was, you know, they find what's her name for missing her interview or whatever it is, 1,000 or whatever, and she says nothing. She doesn't comment anything about Caitlin Clark. You know, I have no comment, and yet she'll go on Twitter and she'll just go bananas, right?
Right, I know it's
But I mean, in fairness, this was his point, is that I don't blame her. You know, like the legacy offers them nothing in return. You know, like this way, if she comes out on Twitter and she create her own narrative, she gets engagement, she gets, you know, whatever it is, And why shouldn't you do that? And listen, it's like I said, it's a very interesting take on this whole thing. Like on the one hand, you want to be nice to the media because listen, that's where the money is, but they really don't give them anything back. Why not go to Twitter instead of like giving these reporters more fuel to the fire? I don't know. Interesting. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, it is. It really is.
And I watch the ESPN sponsored like videos of like literally like back and forth about like just showing the body check, back and forth, and then even commenting like hard foul was not a good look, like it's we'll see how it goes, but she can take it, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think that's like the issue. I do think that people who are getting so up in arms about it, that to me is like a little bit of a warning sign, and like what the Barstool guys are doing. And also like when people start using terms like thugs and things like that, there's a lot of historic like racial connotation stuff that just
that's not good.
Like that. And people shouldn't be using those like terms. I don't like the thing because I do feel like it's created this race thing, and it's just ridiculous. I mean, I don't think my feelings would be any different whatsoever whether it's opposite or same, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. I think I'm gonna probably get going pretty soon.
Okay.
I think I know what we're gonna do. I guess it's 14 minutes till lock. Yeah.
Yep.
What do you guys got going tonight? Just dinner?
Yep.
Home? Nice. Well, have a good night, man.
Sounds good.
Good luck to everybody, and I'll see you guys in Discord if there's anything that comes up. And we got NBA coming back soon, and we got a major coming up next week, so that'll be